This course is packed with content. We're almost done getting started, and thereafter we'll dive right into TypeScript and into all its exciting features and learn them step by step. We'll start with the TypeScript basics, of course, the core types, how it generally works, some of the new features it adds, and all you need to know to get a good understanding of TypeScript. Thereafter, we'll already dive deeper into the TypeScript compiler and the configuration of it, because it's super important for you to understand what you can configure there and what all these different settings do. So we'll have a closer look at that in this module. Thereafter, we'll explore next generation JavaScript features supported in TypeScript, how they work, and how you can use them in TypeScript. We'll continue with classes and interfaces, a super important concept, partly also in vanilla JavaScript in the case of classes. But with interfaces, we also got a brand new TypeScript feature, and you will understand what they are, what they do, and why we might want to use them. Thereafter, it's time to dive deeper. We'll have a look at some advanced types and advanced TypeScript features in general, taking it to the next level there and building up on the basics we already learned about up to this point. Also an advanced feature, which definitely deserves its own section, is the generics feature. You will learn what that is and why it's really helpful in this module. Followed by decorators. Decorators are a pretty cool feature, also added by TypeScript, and we'll have a closer look at decorators and also build some really useful decorators in that module. And thereafter, we will have learned a lot about TypeScript. Now, the course is organized such that I show all these individual features in relatively small, simple demos. Now, to also give you a bigger picture and to see how you would apply all these features in a real project, we'll build just that. We'll have a whole module where we build an entire project entirely with TypeScript from scratch, so that you see many of these features, most of these features you learned about up to that point in action, and you see how they work together and why they simplify the process of building such a project. Once we're done building this project, we'll identify a new problem, and we'll learn how to solve it by working with namespaces and modules, which will help us make our code more manageable and readable. Building up on that, we'll also explore Webpack with TypeScript. Webpack is a build tool we use in modern front-end web development, and you can use it combined with TypeScript to get a better project setup, which simply makes certain things easier and allows you to get the best of both worlds. A great development experience and also code that works really well for your end users. Once we're done with that, we have a very solid picture of TypeScript and how to work with it in projects. Now, what you will need in a lot of real projects are third-party libraries. So we will take a closer look at that, because there are certain third-party libraries which really embrace TypeScript and have built-in TypeScript support, but there also are many libraries which don't. And we'll have a look at how we can work with both types of libraries in a great way in TypeScript projects. Well, and then there are some specific scenarios which deserve their own modules. We'll have a whole module about React with TypeScript, how you can build an entire React application with TypeScript only, and also an entire module about Node.js and Express and TypeScript, so that you also have great examples for these very popular and specific use cases of TypeScript, where you can suddenly create React or Node applications in a brand new way with a brand new language. So lots of exciting content in the course. Let's not waste any time. Let's see how you can get the most out of the course, and thereafter, let's dive in. Your success matters to me, and I want to ensure that you get the most out of this course. Now, of course, that starts with watching the videos. This is a video on demand course, so of course, watch the videos. You can go through this course step by step. It's built in such a way that all the modules and lectures build up on each other. You can also skip certain modules, of course, because all the modules also work on their own if you already know a concept, for example. Now, when watching the videos, of course, do that at your speed. You got speed controls here in the video player, and you can slow me down if I'm going too fast, or speed me up if I'm going too slow for your taste. I also recommend that you code along. It's not a must-do, but you typically learn better if you write code on your own and you have to find and fix your own mistakes. Also pause and rewind the videos for that, because the videos are of course recorded in a way that also makes sense to people who are not coding along. So if you do, you might need to pause occasionally, try out the next steps on your own, or go back to an earlier point in a video to see how exactly I implemented something there. And in general, practicing is important. In this course, we work on real projects and we have many smaller demos. And I can only encourage you that you sometimes pause and try out the next steps on your own, or that you deviate from what I do and try out your own things. So definitely also advance on your own. Of course, only to a certain extent, because if you haven't learned about a certain feature, it might be hard to implement it on your own. But whenever possible, whenever you feel like it, definitely try out things on your own. Now, when you do that, or when you just code along as well, you will also face some errors. Things don't always go as planned, you introduced a mistake in your code, and you get an error. Now debug these errors and search on your own. Use the attached code, which you find attached to many lectures in the course, always to the last lecture of each module, so that you can compare your code to mine and find out where it deviates. But also, if you get error messages, Google them, or use the search here on Udemy to also search the Q&A section, because chances are someone else had a similar error and you can quickly fix it by looking at their solution. Now, of course, if you're really stuck or if some concept is unclear, you can also ask, but also answer here in the Q&A section. I do my best to provide quick support there, but also try to help others there on your own. Because besides fixing your own errors, if you also help others and work with other students, you get a lot out of this course as well. So that's definitely also a recommendation I have. And with all these steps or all these building blocks, you have everything you need to get the most out of this course. Now in the next lecture, I will show you the setup, the IDE I will be using throughout this course, and thereafter we can already dive into TypeScript. TypeScript is amazing, but in order to work with it efficiently, I strongly recommend that you also have a powerful code editor, a powerful IDE. And here my clear recommendation is Visual Studio Code. It's free to use and it has amazing TypeScript support built in. Now, you still need to install the TypeScript compiler, and we already did this, but this has the built-in support which shows you a lot of errors directly in the IDE before you even compiled the project. So you can simply visit code.visualstudio.com, and there you can download it for any operating system and simply walk through the installer there to get this modern IDE. Now it is the IDE I will be using throughout this course, and you can fine-tune and configure it to your requirements and needs. Here are just some settings I'm using. Under Code Preferences, you can change the color theme, and there I am using the Dark Plus theme, so if you want the exact same look, that's the theme I'm using, but of course you can also play around with any other theme here. I also installed certain extensions, so third-party plugins, so to say, which change the appearance or behavior of the editor. You can click on View and then Extensions to be taken to the Extensions menu or the marketplace, and it's all free, no worries, nothing here costs you money. Now I got tons of extensions installed, but the extensions I would recommend that you definitely have a look at is ESLint, that you install this to get linting, to get code quality check support in your projects, and that you install the material icon theme if you like these file icons I have in my projects. That's a pure visual thing, of course. It doesn't change any behaviors. And I can also recommend Path IntelliSense, so that later in the course, once we work with imports, you get better support there. And Prettier, which helps you format your code so that it always looks nice and is readable. Prettier works together with a certain shortcut which you should be aware of under Preferences, Keyboard Shortcuts. There, if you search for Format Document, this shortcut here is a shortcut you can always press in your code to auto-format it to add missing semicolons, to make sure you use the right indentation everywhere, things like that. It makes your code more readable and your life as a developer easier. And that's it. You can also install tslint, but that will be merged with eslint in the future, so eslint should be all you really need. With that, we can go back to View, Explorer, and you should have the same settings I have here, but also dive into the settings in general and explore them and fine-tune everything to your needs and to your likings. And with that, you have a great editor which allows you to write great code, powerful code with a lot of built-in TypeScript support, and you're well prepared to get the most out of this course. So we set up the IDE, which is important. Now let's also set up a starting project, which we'll use throughout this course in the different course modules. So basically a project setup with which we can start every course module to then write our code there. Now, as you will see throughout this course, writing code doesn't require a complex setup in general, but here I want a project where we can write code, compile it, and then immediately see the output of that code in the browser. And for that, I'll first of all add a new index.html file, and you can add this in any empty folder. The two other files or folders you see here are just config files, for Git in case you're using version control, and for my editor, which sets the zoom level. So that's all I have here. But in that index.html file, I will now initialize it with a base skeleton. And for that in Visual Studio Code, you can just type HTML, choose that HTML5 option. If you're not getting this menu, just press Control and space, choose the HTML5 option and hit enter, and you'll get this skeleton. There we could enter understanding TypeScript here as a title, but that does not matter too much. More important is that here you add a script tag in your head section and add a source and point at app.js here and add the defer attribute. This tries to import an app.js file, which of course right now doesn't exist, and it will then of course also execute it if it finds it. This allows us to view our changes, our code changes, directly on the screen in the browser, or if we're just logging something to the console, in the browser DevTools. Next, I will add an app.ts file. That's the file, a TypeScript file, where we will write some code. And there, for example, you could console log your code goes here, or whatever you want. You can console log whatever you want here. And if you do that, you can compile this file with TypeScript, which we installed earlier. For that, you can open the terminal integrated into the editor here and simply write tsc app.ts. This compiles this TypeScript file and generates an app.js file now, which is the file we're importing here. And if you now open this index.html file, you see whatever happens in here. You kick off the logic you wrote in here. And either that's logic that manipulates something on the DOM, or like in this case, it's logic which simply gets logged to the console. So here in this case, I opened this HTML file in the browser. You can simply double click on it outside of the IDE, so in the normal Windows Explorer or the Mac Finder. And then maybe open your developer tools if you're just logging something to the console, and you'll see your log here. Now that's nice, but whenever we change something here in our code, we have to manually recompile. Well, that is what it is for now. It will change later in the course, but we also have to manually reload this page here. And to speed this up and make sure that you don't have to do this whenever you change something, we'll actually also add another tool here to this dummy setup, which we'll use throughout this course, so that this happens automatically. Now to install such a tool, let's run npm init here in this project folder. The npm command is available if you installed Node.js. Make sure that for that you visit nodejs.org and download and install the latest version you find here. For the moment, we're not going to write any Node.js code, but Node.js comes together with the npm tool, which we can use to install third-party dependencies or useful tools that speed up our development, and for that reason, we need it here. So with that installed, you can run npm init in this project folder. Simply hit enter, and you can answer all these questions here with the defaults by simply hitting enter all the time. And once this completes, it gives you a package.json file, which looks something like this. And now you can run npm install to install a dependency which is exclusive to this project, so to install a tool, you could say, which you can use in this project, --save-dev to mark it as a development only dependency, so a tool that helps us during development and does not contain any code which will execute as part of our main code. And the tool name is light-server. If you hit enter here, this installs this extra tool. And once this finishes, just go into your package.json file and in the scripts part, add a comma and add a new script which you name start. And then as a value between double quotes, enter light-server. So that name of the package which was added here. If you now hit enter, you can run npm start here to start this start script. And light server is a simple development server which always serves the index.html file next to the package.json file, so this file, and it serves your application on this URL you see here, localhost 3000 by default. And you can then just visit this location, simply enter localhost 3000 in the browser, and now your code runs here. And why is this better? Well, this will now automatically reload the page whenever another file in this directory changes. So if I, for example, add an exclamation mark here, and I save this, and I then compile this again with tscapp.ts, and you go back to the browser, you see the latest output immediately because it automatically reloaded. And that simply saves us the extra work of reloading manually. Now, important about this npm start process, definitely keep it running as long as you are working on your project, as long as you are writing code which you want to see execute in the browser. Once you're done, you can always quit this process with Ctrl+C, but once you do so, your project is no longer getting served under localhost 3000. So keep it up and running as long as you are writing code and making changes. With that, I'll change it back, but this is totally up to you. And this is the project setup I will use throughout this course. You also find it attached, of course, in the finished form. Just one important note, if you download the attached starting project, or any other course snapshot, any other code snapshot you find anywhere in the course, then you will get a download that does not include this node modules folder. This is a huge folder which in the end stores all third-party packages and their dependencies. And since it is so huge, I typically delete it because you can easily recreate it by running npm install. So if you download one of my attachments, navigate into the extracted folder, and in that folder run npm install. And this will install all dependencies and recreate this node modules folder. And once you did this, you can run npm start or do whatever you want to do in this project. And with that, we got this project setup we'll use throughout the course. Now let's not waste any more time and let's just get started.